I often turn to this psalm because it describes in such an exceptional way the awareness that we have of a God who gives to us just an enormous amount of gifts and then places us into a place of responsibility for those gifts, not because we happen to be there, but because God sees in us the capacity to care for that which He has given us. Hear these words from Psalm 8. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouths of babes and infants, you have founded the bulwark because of your foes, to silence the enemy and the avenger. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon, the stars that you have established, what are human beings that you are mindful of them, mortals that you care for them? You have made them a little lower than God and crowned them with glory and honor. You have given them dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under their feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the sea. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Well, once in a while, I think of a saying or a word or a phrase or a book title or a song title, and I'm having difficulty, as in the word Seattle, to come up with the word. And so I turn to my cell phone or my computer and I check with the internet, and sure enough, one or two words gives me what I'm looking for. And silently I whisper to myself, whoa, that's exciting. I found it. And then I can read the lyrics of that song, or I can review the book and see what others think about the book, or I can pick up on that particular word, and the word can be identified from its origin, which I think is always fascinating. And I can do that with names and of persons, and I can say, what does that name mean? I've been given the name Irwin by my mother, who was originally the name of one of my ancestors, and those who gave to us our Tyke Miller and other names over the course of time. And I can then discover that the name means lover of the sea. Well, I must say I do love the water, and I do love lakes, and I do love rivers, but I must say the sea or the ocean presents a significant challenge for me because I'm not a good swimmer. I did have a chance to spend 2 wonderful weeks, 2 different times in the Sea of Cortez down in the Gulf of Mexico area along La Paz. And we went to an island, Andy and myself and a group of other folks, and we camped on a big island that had been used as a medical or military site during the Second World War. And it was a great place. An exceptionally wonderful gift that has been given to us. A wonderful shape. We pass by a lake or a stream or a forest, or we pass by any number of things that come to us from nature, including human nature. We pass by people and totally ignore them and we're gone. But it's a gift. I mean, the fact of the matter is the trees and the air and the warmth and the cold and the sun and sleet, and all of that is a gift. The tree has oftentimes been, for some authors, a source of identifying nature. Two of my favorite children's books are one by Shel Silverstein called The Giving Tree. And you may remember that giving tree. It was a giving tree who was in love with a little boy. It's just a delightful fantasy. The tree is in love with the little boy, and he says to the little boy, you can play in my branches, and you can swing from one of the branches, and you can eat the apples that are on this tree and enjoy the apple, and it is my gift to you. And more that comes from the tree, as it is a giving tree, and the giving tree continues to give to the little boy, and the little boy ages, as one would imagine in this wonderful book, and at the very end, the tree now is nothing more than a stump, because the little boy grew up and decided he needed the branches for a house and other things. And he comes, and he's tired, and he's weary, and he's my age, I suspect. And the giving tree says to him, I'm only a stump, but you can lean on me. Lean on me. The giving tree gives. And we receive from that giving tree of nature such incredible gifts that we oftentimes overlook and disregard. The other book that I have come to find just wonderfully delightful is a book by Dr. Seuss called The Lorax. You remember the book? Who can remember Dr. Seuss's book, The Lorax? Oh, then I got to tell you. The Lorax is this little person who comes to a person who decides that he likes the tree because the tree has branches, and then more importantly, it has a top of it, which he discovered can be made into a sweater. And that sweater becomes an item that he can make, and he can make lots of them, but he has to cut the tree down in order to get to the top of the tree. And so he begins to cut trees down, and he creates an incredible array of sweaters out of the tops of the trees. And he wants to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And so he says to the Lorax, who says to him, if you cut all those trees down, we won't have any trees to shade the lawn, and we won't have any leaves for the children to play in, and we won't have any fruit for the animals to eat. And the man who decides he wants to continue making sweaters because they become very popular, he's done a great job of advertising them, and they are very warm, and they are very colorful and delightful. So he says, I intend to be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so he continues to cut the trees down. And then the plant that he has grows so large that now he's covering up all the grass. And now there's no longer any grass, and there are fewer trees. And so the animals have to leave and go somewhere else. And because of the plant, he begins to pollute the air with his smoke. And now the birds don't want to come there anymore. So that's gone. And then after a while, he's got this sludge that he has to get rid of, and it ends up in the river and the pond and the stream, and so the fish have to leave as well. And the last tree is cut down by this man. And all along the way, the Lord says to him, you're destroying that which brings beauty and joy. You could do that to a few of the trees, but what is there about needing to be? And the man now is all alone, just the Lorax and the person who's writing the poem. And this little boy says to the Lorax, what do I need to do? Well, what happened? What happened to all the trees? And he said, go talk to the Lorax. He's way up above now in this mighty castle he built, but he's all alone. And if you ask him, he'll tell you, but you've got to pay him some money. So he puts the money in and he gives to him a promise. And the man puts down a hearing device and he tells him what happened. And then he says, if you will do this for me, will you plant this seed for this tree so that we might have the trees again? He realizes what he's done. It's a great story. It's one of our son's favorite books. It's a book of nature. It's a book of the value of recognizing the interconnection of all of nature to every piece in nature. We need the trees to produce shelter and comfort and ease in life, but we need it also for products, but we can't get rid of all the trees or we lose a valuable part of the oxygen that comes into our existence. So everything is connected, interconnected. What happens to one thing makes impact on another thing, tragically. Obviously, I went down to make sure that the geranium on our dock was doing well, and I discovered it needed water again quickly. So even plants need us to pay attention to them or they die. The leaves begin to turn brown and they die. Now, whose nature is it? Who owns the nature? Now, we can assume we do. We own it. And he says, I have a right to the larks. I have a right to do what I want to with these trees. Well, perhaps. Let's find out what the scripture tells us. We are reminded over and over again that this is what we have come to understand. If you turn to Psalm 24, the earth is the Lord's. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. For he founded it upon the seas and established it upon the waters. Psalm 24. So the our early ancestors said to us, spiritual ancestors, in order to fully understand who we are, we need to recognize we have been gifted with a wonderful, wonderful world on which to live. I'll say this again from another translation. When I consider your heavens, the work of your hands in an etymological way, the moon, the stars which you have set into place, what is man that you care for him? You made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor, and you made him ruler over the works of your hands. Now, it should be understood that in Hebrew, the term ruler came with some background. Ruler was used to describe who King David was and King Solomon and all the other kings, and it came with a blessing from God. And that blessing then meant for the ruler to accept that blessing. And then it became a covenant relationship, a contract between the divine and the ruler. And the ruler then was expected to have certain kinds of behavior and to treat that responsibility with dignity and with honor, and to keep turning to this one who gave life to him for insight and understanding, and then to pass that on with gentleness and compassion and kindness to those and to that which the ruler had authority to care for. So to be given nature, to be endowed with that nature, comes with a covenant responsibility. The United Methodist Church in its social principles says this: we affirm that all creation belongs to God, and it is a manifestation of God's goodness and providential care. I want to say that again. We affirm that all creation belongs to God, not to us, belongs to God. And is a manifestation of God's goodness and providential care for us. We affirm our sacred calling to be responsible stewards, not abusers, not excessive users, but stewards of all of the gifts that God has given to us, and to lovingly tend all that God has wrought. That's us. So it's exciting for me when I see on Facebook your posts in which you've been out kayaking or fishing or walking through the woods, or describing the joy that you had as you shared a bike trail trip, or did a trip to one of the national parks and saw the wonders which this earth has for each of us to not only use thoughtfully and carefully and with a great sense of stewardship, but to recognize that we are indeed a people who are not a onceler man who could Lorax, but indeed we are advised and guided and directed by the covenant relationship we have with our God. We will sing "This is Our Father's World" in just a moment. And to our listening ear, all nature rings. It rings with us, human nature, natural nature. What a gift. We are stewards of that gift. We are called upon by the giver. We did not create it. We are called by the giver to care for it and to praise our God for that gift and for the honor and the joy that comes from being good stewards of the world on which we live. Remember, it is the only home we have.